But now we are stepping into the world of data, and to be honest, this isn't a world that we're unfamiliar with. We have been doing work already with a number of organizations, but we're really ramping things up now. We're also an IT recruitment business. We source the best IT talent and to help supplement teams. That's been invaluable over the last few years as our clients have struggled to find the teams internally to keep up with the technology pace. So that's something that we're able to do as well. And very proudly, we're part of the global Harvey Nash Group, and that allows us the breadth and depth to realise our ambitions and to support your biggest projects. We keep great company as well. We focus very carefully on a select number of industries. In addition to higher education, we work with house builders and housing associations, and more recently local authorities. I'm sure Nathan will correct me in a moment, but I think we're working with about 10 to 12 universities in the UK now. We're also a Microsoft partner, so we have a very strong strategic relationship with Microsoft. And also we are building a very strong relationship with BT as well. So speaking of keeping great company, what I'd like to do now is hand over to my colleagues. I'd like also to introduce Darren Timmins, who is our new head of data insights for Crimson. Darren brings with him a wealth of experience of leading the data strategy for the Bank of England. I know he's worked with Virgin Media as well. Tom Cadman is our Director of Cloud Services, so he heads up our whole Crimson Solutions team. But Nathan, I'd like to hand over to you now just to introduce Data Insights.
To Mark's point, we've been working in and around with using IT systems and solutions and providing services to help organisations with enterprise integration, data orchestration, supporting people and processes within their business to provide richer experiences to staff and colleagues. Predominantly around the business solution side, we have gone into doing things like sort of operational reporting, data warehousing, etc. But as Microsoft's technology has evolved and as our clients have actually improved the quality of their information, the opportunity now we see it as being much bigger. That's led us to invest and start up the data practice or data insights practice here at Crimson. Yeah, so we started and focused initially in the higher education sector and started to do some research in that area. What we wanted to do was to understand what the opportunity was for organisations in higher education if they could improve their data. What benefits would they get, across the organisation? Could they provide richer, more tailored experiences out to their students? Would it improve the experience of staff and colleagues as well? But also understand some of the barriers that actually were preventing those organisations to realising that opportunity as well. And more these days, it is less about the technology. The technology is becoming easier and easier. So to Mark's point, what we've done as part of our research is go through and look where the opportunity is across the whole of that student journey, all the way from recruitment and admission, all the way up to managing through to alumni and even into operations across the organisation as well. Here's the next slide, please, Mark. And I won't go through all of them here because we'll share these out with you anyway. But you can see, what we've looked to do is look at where we can derive that benefit or drive that outcome. So make an improvement, add some value back into that organisation by improving data or making data accessible to individuals so that they can make more informed decisions and drive that change through. So Darren, I'll bring you in here. Just, you've worked in other organisations as well, and I know you're quite passionate about this area, in making sure that, data is key in unifying processes across an organisation.
Yeah, I think the key thing is that each organisation, regardless of its vertical, has a wide range of disparate data sources that give insight into certain activities. But you really get the benefit of that when you bring that together, and that allows you to then analyse relationships as much as you analyse the facts of what's happening, which in turn then can be used to drive better outcomes for everyone, obviously within the bounds of consent, privacy, and the ethical challenges. But if you look from trying to get the best for everybody in terms of, are people being retained in the way you want them to? Are they engaged in the way they want them to? Are you managing the relationships in the best way possible? And then, even post your relationship with that individual, is there any mutual benefit that can be achieved from that? So really it's around not just the individual bits of data, but really the sum of the parts, and treating these business challenges as holistically as possible.
Thank you. Mark, can you go to the next slide? So one of the things that we've pulled together is, I think this is a model that's well known out in the world of data, is look at how we work with organisations to support them on their journey. Darren, are you all right just to talk through this again as well, just to sort of paint the picture of what we're trying to help organisations do?
Yeah, so obviously many organisations capture data, probably using Excel or Access or any other various tools that are out there, and departments have come to rely on these information silos, so to speak. So as you move up the chain, as you get closer to the summit, obviously these silos then start to be combined. You work out how you can join this data together to infer more, and then how do you apply that to actually drive forward and make your organisation more successful using the data that you've acquired and the context that you've wrapped around it.
Thank you. Mark, can you go to the next slide, please? I know, Tom, I can't see you, but I know you're on the call. This is something you're very passionate about from a technology point of view. I think, what people tend to see is to try and reach for that summit very quickly on the visualization or consumption side of information of data. But actually, we know there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done under the covers to actually make this stuff work. And, we look at this an awful lot, obviously, with our technology hat on, but as I mentioned before, even when you look at transforming data, a lot of that, managing data is about process and about having the right people as well. And it is a combination of all of these things that you've got to get right within an organization so that you can become a lot more data driven. Tom, do you want to just sort of touch on this a little bit?
Yeah, Nathan. I think in terms of the pyramid at the top, the mountain at the top we're trying to achieve, in terms of getting to that data set, is understanding all of those underlying sources, understanding the quality of the data, understanding how that data comes in, how it's transformed, how we then take it up into a world that the users, our business colleagues, can get access to that data, how we make informed decisions, and obviously how we bring out, whether it's visualizing that data with standard reports and dashboards, but more importantly, now how we get insights and data and use things like machine learning, propensity models to try and drive out sort of discovery of that data on facts and information that we, are relationships that are out there. How do we bring that all together? But it is very much, there's a lot of, I would call it plumbing under the covers that people never obviously take on board to get to that insights at the top.
So just on that note, Tom, because you mentioned about actually the discovery of data, analysing that data as well. Just for those that might see the logo, Realise are one of our strategic partners here at Crimson. They specialise in data science and machine learning. So again, about us having the right team to support you and your teams on your journey with data. We're not experts at everything, we realise that, so no pun intended around Realise. So we partner with an organisation that are specialists in this area to help you look at your information once you've actually got a set of data that you can actually have a look at, and help you to see if we can actually help you solve some of your problems or improve some of the outcomes that you've currently got based around the data that you've actually got access to help you look at it in a slightly different way to solve the problems that you have today or problems of the future you're just not aware of yet. Next slide, please, Mark. Thank you. So, Darren, I'm going to put you on the spot again because I know you're passionate around this slide that we pulled together.
Indeed, I mean, to me, data, as Nathan alluded to earlier, has been sold as a bit of a technology sort of dream over the last decade or more, especially if you look at the big data revolution for 6 or 7 years ago, when really data is there to help solve the problems of the people and the businesses that need that. And you have to apply a number of different lenses to being able to interpret and utilise that data, especially. So you've got to take a people-centric approach. It's not just about pushing data through a platform and having it like a sausage machine where some sort of answer comes out the end. And it is about using it for the benefit of everyone, not just to drive organisational outcomes.
And based on that, for those that are, have worked with us before across any of our other service lines, you should be familiar with this approach. So to Darren's point, taking a people-centric approach, looking at how we can improve the experiences, as Mark said, around colleagues, staff, and students in your world. But then when it comes to delivery, looking at how you actually deliver this in a very pragmatic, simplistic way. And breaking it down into bite-sized chunks so that actually we can derive some value on the way, which in some cases can help validate or even build that business case and unlock some return on investment that helps you then to further invest in your journey in data as well. And the empowerment is not just about surfacing that information out and enriching the experiences of your colleagues and of your students, but it's also then about making sure you've got the right skills and expertise and knowledge within your teams, so that you actually can start to become more self-sufficient yourselves. You're not then reliant on us. You work with a partner because you see value, and we add value into what you're doing on your journey. Next slide, please, Mark. So as part of our research and the areas that we've really focused in on trying to sort of build out, services and solutions, we're looking to work with universities to make sure that they're actually identifying and attracting the right type of student to support that recruitment, but also then to improve retention as well, and student success and outcomes all the way through that journey. There are, as I said, other areas where we're looking at the operational side of the university as well, around that data piece. But a lot of these things are, as we said earlier on, intrinsically linked for us around the technology, the services, and the people side. Next slide, please, Mark. And you can see that when we start to look at the tools that we have in our kit bag across the board from Microsoft. Now, obviously, this is very Microsoft-centric from our perspective, but those, from a technology point of view, will understand that there is a whole plethora of additional business systems that aren't on here as well. And there's a lot of stuff which is non-Microsoft in your environment as well. And the data consultancy, the insights team are agnostic in their approach. The same when we come to change in process. But from a delivery point of view, we are a Microsoft partner. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Well, what I'd like to do now is turn our attention to the panel discussion. And Nathan's already mentioned our partnership with Realise, so I'm really thrilled to welcome Dr. Stephen Welsh to join the panel today. He's really been helping Crimson with demystifying and democratizing data, has been part of the research that we've done into how we can make data work for universities better, and brings experience outside of the sector as well, in areas such as retail. Joining us as well is Carol Porter from UCLan. Carol's been on a 2-year journey to drive better data quality and build an active data policy. 17 years in HE, previously in insurance and engineering. And also Carol's actually started a data governance network, so hopefully we can hear a little bit about that in a moment too. James Longmore is from Aston University. He's had IT director roles for the last 12 years, has a background with the NHS, notably worked on the Wembley Stadium project. Less of a data background, but very much a man about getting data working and getting it done fast. Howard Whiteley from Gate One is very much involved with business change and digital transformation. He's the former CIO at Leeds University, interim CIO at Salford, and he also led the world's first program to move a university's IT platform to the Azure cloud. That was with Staffordshire University. And last but certainly not least, we have Stephen Dashfield from Derby University. or sorry, I should say University of Derby. He's been there for the last 10 years, putting into practice a data strategy, facing some of the ongoing challenges of ethics and thinking about the question around predictive analytics and how that can work alongside the ethics and transparency within a university. So welcome all. Thank you very much for joining us. I'd like to put my first question to Howard Whiteley, if I may. Howard, do you recognise the challenges we've outlined this morning, and if so, what do you think universities need to do to overcome some of the hurdles that we're all seeing with data? And just for note, panelists will be on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much, yeah, thanks for inviting me along this morning. I'll start off with just some of the challenges. I'll start with the first one, data quality, and just a minor correction. I wasn't the CIO at the University of Leeds, but in terms of data quality,
apologies.
It was Sheffield Hallam. I worked out in Staffordshire. Yeah, in terms of challenges, I've worked across a number of universities, and the challenge I see around data management, data insights, very much around, probably under 4 headings: data ownership. I see this as a really common theme. Data ownership. Making sure there's really clear on who owns the data. That sort of stewardship issue. Lots of overlaps I see in terms of and also gaps in ownership. Secondly, data quality. Being really clear on those structures and the underlying data quality. Always a huge challenge within higher education. Huge amount of data and very difficult to lots of challenges around that. Thirdly, integration. Lots and lots of siloed systems, complex IT platforms, legacy, and also more modern cloud-based solutions. It's really, how do you integrate all of that together? A huge challenge. And I think finally, and again, we touched on it earlier on, it's really the why. Why we're doing this. Really, how do you turn data into clear information to create those informed decisions, and really making it people-centric, and most importantly, putting the student at the heart of everything, of all your thinking. So I think those are some of the challenges I would sum up. Certainly the way I think when I work through these sorts of projects within HE and also outside of HE, and some of the other areas that we work in as an organisation.
Thank you, Howard. And I should have added, if anybody has any comments or questions for the panel, please just drop that in the meeting chat. I'll try to facilitate that as we progress. Carol Porter, if I can turn to you. You've been on a 2-year journey to drive change. Data governance plays obviously a key role in supporting a successful data strategy. Can you share a little bit about your journey and where you've seen success?
Certainly, I was very keen from the off that if we are going to have or even start on this journey, that, as has already been mentioned, that it is very much about kind of personalising that journey. Forgive me, but data's quite boring to most people. It's not sexy. So we have to make it more about personalising that data, understanding your story and your use and your need for the data. So I was really glad to see on the earlier slide a recognition of kind of all that groundwork that needs doing before you can even have a kind of data strategy. It is, as just been mentioned by Howard, about that kind of top level ownership as well. So it's not just me kind of banging this drum in every meeting that I go to. We also have the issue of a legacy system. Our student record system banner was set up 20 years ago. In a way that you wouldn't kind of set parameters now. But back then, of course, full-time undergraduate only September intake was the norm, whereas now it's probably anything but the norm in the terms of the challenges we have with multiple intakes and variations to courses. I think it's also important to think about people's time. Often when you're trying to tackle data quality, you're asking somebody to work extra hard on a set of data that probably doesn't realise them benefits. The benefits come for somebody else further down the line. So that's a really hard sell when people are stretched and are busy, or under these conditions where working is even more challenging. To ask somebody to go kind of like that extra mile without seeing a benefit is quite a hard sell. And one of the things that I realised quite early on in the journey, that you really need to go back to basics sometimes as well. I kept talking about data quality, and somebody quite legitimately in a kind of early workshop that we're doing went, "What do you actually mean?" So we had to go right back to basics and do an entire workshop about the dimensions of data. What do we mean? In terms of it's not just about filling in the blanks, which is I think how a lot of people, a lot of the administrators who were working and collecting the data just thought it, in terms of filling the blanks. And we had to talk quite a bit about, the relevance, the timeliness, the uniqueness, and the kind of format about what they were collecting, and did an entire piece on those data dimensions.
Thank you, Carol. And Stephen Welsh, if I may come to you, I mean, as Carol points out, there's a lot of boring work that needs to be done at times with data. Sometimes we look at that mountain and it's very intimidating. And is there a danger that we can get overwhelmed and feel like this is just too difficult?
It's a really good point, and I liked what Carol and Howard had to say in terms of we mustn't forget that. Oh, I've got an echo at my end. Is it?
Yeah, we'll try to mute that.
We mustn't forget that the reason why we're doing this is to generate some sort of positive outcome. Howard talked about being student centric, and I think certainly we've seen across a variety of different sectors, organisations can shy away from, as you say, this mountain, because they see that maybe those outcomes aren't necessarily going to be realised for a number of years, because maybe we're looking at a big system implementation, or it's just too hard. So it's key to take a step back and try and demonstrate success early on in the process, identify those quick wins. That can then raise awareness across the organisation as to why you're doing this, and you get buy-in across the different stakeholders. And also it helps with investment and so forth. And those quick wins can at times just be, prioritising which data sets need to be joined together, or which particular area of data quality you need to resolve. Is it just one piece of data capture that would yield significant results that you can then shout about and garner support across the wider organisation? So it is about an iterative journey that continually demonstrates success and moves the organisation forwards, and it's really, really important to do that.
Thank you, Stephen. Darren Timmins, you've joined us recently. You've seen the work at the Bank of England, Virgin Media. There's certainly a people element to this. It seems. What lessons have you learned that you think we could share with higher education?
Yeah, I don't think you could probably pick two more disparate organisations. Virgin Media is awash with data, both from its network and through its marketing campaigns. I'm sure everybody's had some sort of communication from Virgin, whether they're a customer or not, and it's a high-profile brand. The Bank of England, on the other side of that coin, is very much working on third-party data that's been collected from across various organisations, and without them necessarily having the whole context. So the stitching together of data in that scenario for the benefit of us all through to forecasting of the economy, does shine through. However, there are huge assumptions that are made through that process. So it's key, as Carol said earlier, to get the governance right and the actual understanding and meaning of the data and what it does mean when you join those data sets together. As Stephen just alluded to, sometimes the sum of the parts does give a more interesting story. I think from a Virgin point of view, there's always been this need and to create good customers. That Virgin want you to use their services as much as possible, so that you in turn will continue to pay your bill and not look to move elsewhere. So the retention and acquisition piece is pretty relevant to what was shown on one of the earlier slides. So, data is used heavily within the network to identify bottlenecks, capacity issues, individual errors, so that the preemptive fixes can be done, etc., etc. Whereas in the more CRM world, there are legacy systems that have been discussed earlier, and there's a whole, rather than a single view of the customer, which you tend to hear of a lot, there's an absolute view of a customer, which is where you try to take all that data from disparate systems and then join the dots to see where there is data inconsistency, and then you can use that to try and drive better quality and stop any OPEX bleed that there might be. But back to Stephen's point, it is about, biting off something that you can demonstrate success against and ensure that the outcomes are what you expect them to be, rather than just doing a big six approach, which is basically we're going to boil the ocean and the answer will miraculously appear from the data lake. I think Scalable will be held high.
And Stephen Dashfield, the point both Darren and Stephen have mentioned about not biting off too much, it strikes me from the conversation I had with you the other day that you've used financial analytics as a stick to make progress at your university, to get people to take notice. Can you describe what you've been working on and the success that you've had there?
I think for us it's more around, we talked a little bit earlier on about ethics, and I can talk a little bit more about that maybe later, and putting the student at the heart of everything. But there are some challenges in that, and understanding what that means and the limitations and overcoming those barriers. So I think there's benefits in using analytics and using the data for some of the more business elements, and making some data-driven decisions within the business to get buy-in to that process. Because I think moving into things like predictive or prescriptive analytics, when you're talking about students and potentially their well-being as well, is quite a big step to take for a university, and how that might impact our student body.
Okay. So ethics and that transparency element is critical if you're going to take people on that journey. Thank you, Stephen. James Longmore, that is. Where do you see Aston on the data maturity mountain? What's your experience, I suppose, of getting data working in any form that might be?
Well, thanks, Mark. I really like the picture. I like the picture of the mountain, but I probably disagree with it a little bit. Business intelligence is something that we build, and mountains aren't. I try to use some sort of construction imagery with my boards and the people that I'm trying to engage with, to try and demonstrate that actually this is something that's got to be built from the ground up. I completely agree with you. There's a lot of stuff underneath the ground, and and to be honest, to answer your question, Aston is at an early stage. Like a lot of the sector, like a lot of the HE sector, it's relying very heavily on operational reporting. I think it was Howard earlier mentioning about poor integration being a key factor, and I really do think in HE that's probably the largest factor that holds back that maturity. My own style historically with building, especially business intelligence systems, has been really to start with understanding where the organisation wants to take its data. Do we measure performance with data? Do we make decisions with data? And if we don't, then we're really just reporting some stuff. If for me, if we can work back with our most senior teams, with our boards, and understand how they are best making decisions with data and what data they really and truly need, then we start from that position and we build up. Our experience here at Aston is that we've got twin tracks. We've got to really stitch that integration together, and we've really got to, as an organisation, understand what it is that drives us, and what data we can really properly represent, that will drive senior decision making. And if it drives senior decision making, exactly as I think it was Stephen talking earlier about, you're able to demonstrate early success, and that's really key, because if the senior team of any organisation is driving its organisation using proper and informed data, then those teams sitting under them will take it seriously and will gradually go through those maturity steps.
Thank you, James. Very insightful. I'm conscious of time. We're getting close to the end. I just wondered whether I could just bring Tom Cadman in, I suppose, just to share your thoughts about. We've taken an iterative approach to projects over the last few years, and we're looking to do the same with data. It strikes me that that's perhaps the right approach to take.
It is, Mark. As long as obviously you've got the foundations in place, there's no reason why data-driven projects can't be agile. We lead with agile across the board in terms of managing our stories, but it's making sure that we've brought the right data silos, brought them together, the data cleansing, the data quality, and from that point forward, you can then start breaking it down into small iterative gains. Again, it's all about return on investment. It's all about making sure that you get that insights early, start to show the value return, and then I think Caroline said before, data can be boring, it's not sexy, but how do you get value very quickly and get people to start to see some return on their investment, see that value return, and then you start to get that momentum going where you can start to drive business benefits. And before you know it, you'll start to get that wheel going. People are starting to come to you with demands, needs, and start to see that benefit. I think similarly, you talk about data quality, data governance. It's also driving some of that insight back into operational teams, so they get to see the value of why they're actually keying data in and making sure the quality is correct. So they see some of that information feeding back to well, because it then becomes a cycle, feeds back naturally.
Brilliant. Nathan, you're raising your hand. I think you wanted to add something there.
Yeah, I just wanted to just on Tom's point there. Tom was talking about the ROI. I know James talks about and Stephen talks about getting that return, but also success and how you measure it. And I think that's really important because we've seen this, Mark, in when IT has worked to support transformational change. You've got to measure the right things, and it will build confidence. And I think back to that point, we talk about success. We're normally measured on, was it delivered on time and on budget? But in reality, it's normally linked to a different outcome within the organization. And it's no different with data. If we're able to deliver something on time and on budget, fantastic. But if it actually then supports some form of change and builds that confidence up with the relevant stakeholders to go to that next level and do the next thing, I think that's what we're all trying to achieve, because it's then actually driving that positive change within the organization. Yeah.
And if I can conclude with Carol. Carol, I did mention your governance group. Perhaps you could share a little bit about what that is, because I think universities are unique in the way that they collaborate together anyway.
They are, and I must say, having come from the background that I did prior to working here, what I do like is how collaborative everybody is. So at the start of the journey 2 years ago, a couple of us kind of offered out to institutions that we have a data governance network, because often you are an individual trying to start this journey within the institution, and it's something that you as an individual are passionate about, so it can feel kind of quite lonely in that respect. So there's now 45 institutions within our data governance network. It makes for a great forum in terms of ideas sharing, support, And certainly one of our aims going forward this year is to provide share our good practice, share our kind of frameworks and documentation that we've developed to help others kind of on that journey. But it is a very great sector to work in from that perspective. People are very open and very supportive. And certainly going forward, I think it's going to become an increasing challenge as there is an expectation that more data is collected from us, new metrics are applied to us. So certainly something that I think every institution is looking at this point in time, albeit under the challenges of working remotely for most of us.
Brilliant. Okay, well let's after this presentation, we'll make sure we get a bit more detail on that so we can share that with the group. But thank you all to the panelists. I know we've got a bunch of other questions we'd love to ask. Perhaps it's something that we could do separately on another call if everybody's up for it. What I'm going to do now is just wrap things up. Nathan, do you want to just explain a little bit about the service delivery model and the offer to universities to be able to get started on some of this for free?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, those that have engaged with us previously know that the standard approach that we take, everything is led through a consultative approach. And one of the things that we're looking at to offer out is a free workshop, which is all about exploring that opportunity. And, there are a number of potential areas in which, you may wish to explore. Back to Stephen's point, James's point, I think everyone's mentioned it. One of the, a key area where we might be able to come in and actually have a look at a set of data to try and resolve or solve a pain point or an area of value. So as an example, it could be, trying to improve your recruitment or student retention. So, we're offering that out as a free workshop. On the back end of that, our standard approach then is to, go a little bit further and explore in a little bit more detail that kind of data discovery piece, which is actually coming in and actually looking at where that data actually resides today. Is it accessible? Is it secure? What is that quality like? And then moving on from there, it's then saying, okay, is it fit for purpose in regard to helping you to try and improve or resolve that problem? Then we move into the essentials piece, which is getting into that, whether it's James's foundation on his building or whether it's all the stuff under the mountain for us. It's about getting that foundation right. So what systems do you have in play? Have you got the right architecture in place? And what do those operational reports need to actually look like? Then once you can get those elements correct and in place, you can then start to look at enhancing and enriching that data, and then starting to analyze it. And if we can analyze it as people, can we then get machine learning and AI to start looking at that information? If they can, this is where it starts to move us into the advanced state, which is driving change and action and activity on the back end of that insight. So it's becoming actionable and where possible, semi-automated as well, to help drive operational efficiency and to improve experiences. So I think it's a model that should resonate with actually on the call. I think the bit is it's where are you on your journey and where could we support you in helping you to either validate your ideas or to progress you to the next stage. And as you said, Mark, the bit that we're offering out today is that free exploratory workshop. And we have got some ideas around the things that we've been focused on based on our research, but that doesn't mean that they're all included in there. So, again, if people have got a particular area they're looking at the moment and they'd like us to come in and have a conversation, get Darren, Tom, guys from Realise, Stephen, to come and have a conversation with them, please just reach out and let us know.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Nathan. So there's a free workshop there, and there's all kinds of stuff to help with the preparation around those steps as well. So I did mention about the AI artwork. There is a survey that's gone out, only a few questions. You should be receiving that in your inbox at the moment. If you could fill that in, please, we'd love to hear your feedback on how we can improve these types of presentations and the information we share. We'll be drawing a winner from just randomly from that survey before the end of the day, and we'll let that winner know, and we'll be sharing the announcing the winner on social media as well. Effectively, you'll have the chance to choose a piece of AI artwork. So good luck with that. So what's happening next? So coming into your inbox tomorrow is a fact sheet all around data insights that we've put together. We've got a web page and some more content. We have been recording this webinar as well. So we'll tidy that up and get that out to you so that you can share that with your peers too. I think that's all. I'd just like to thank the panelists for taking their time to share their thoughts and preparing for today, and thank you to the Crimson team. And then finally, thank you for your attention. We hope that we've provided some great value today, and we look forward to working with you in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you.